Welcome back again. This is Toski Brown, and you're watching Tech Hustler on YouTube. But in this video, the Beckham has some a function. And over in my previous videos, I'm in Python and you can functions. And functions, you can say in order for us to be able to write a reusable code, we can use functions to do that. In the case functions, boy me it me improve readability, and a boy me it me debug the code, Send the by embrace. And then it also boy me avoid the repetitions. So Kaya in the previous videos how I need to see actual function. This is how I see actual. So first of all, our keyword, that is the def. Then I'll say add. Then here the open and close brackets abba. So here we are now here the column abba. And then so if I want to add, let's say a is equal to 2 plus 1. Okay, then I'll print it here. So I'll print a. So here, whenever I call it this function, we are never say 3 because in that function I'm added 2 plus 1 So if I call this function, so make us say we are add, and then I made me open and close brackets abba. So whenever I run this code, we are not going to say, I remember say 3. So the moment clear, we see no I'm running for. This one's option I mean I say 3 or say. So function but just opposite say you go back to my videos now here in Python and Chi, and I say introduction to Python my functions. Okay, so let's move on. So in the previous videos we talked about argument in function. So with the argument in function, it says instead of saying a 2 plus 1 I would rather say a, or I would rather say num1 comma num2. Okay, so I have num1 and then num2. So if I want to add two numbers, I'll say the num1 plus num2. Sorry, it's supposed to be plus num2. Okay, so if I print a, it means I'm going to get the numbers that I'll be putting here. That is the parameters we see, num1 and then num2. And it will depend on the argument I'm going to. So here, so I'm going to call this function I remember syntax error because this function needs an argument, and as I need 2 arguments. That is the num1 and num2. So if I want to add 2 numbers, I will say first number near 5 and then the second number near 8. So when I run this code, menya the answer for the 5 and then 8, meaning I have say menya 13 or so that is one of the things here in the previous video. And then we did returnable functions. So with the returnable functions or the return functions, instead of us to be printing a here, now you're returning this value, say a, okay, you're returning this value, say. So here you're returning a. So whenever we want to add 2 things, we need to print this. Okay, until the way ever shame. So we're printing the add 5 and 8, So when we run this code, you have the same answer. Just that whenever we want to call this function, we have to print it. We have to print this function, okay? So we are printing. I will say this argument, So I can change this to, let's say 3, and then this to 6. Into some running, I should be having 9. Okay, I'll say 9. So in the previous videos, these are some of the things I hear in function. So in this video, we are going to talk about the arguments and then the keyword arguments. Arguments and then keyword arguments. So args and then keyword arguments. That is the arguments and then the keyword arguments. So some people will say we can args and Kwargs. Okay, so let me clear this. Talking about the keyword arguments, you be able to say questions be say, what if say you create a function you name the number of arguments you be taking. So we want to add numbers, and numbers now we don't know the number of if I say items, if I say add. So if I say add 10 numbers, you name. If I say add be 20 numbers, you name. Okay, because system maybe a be no you be ama if I say a user no ono na be the number of numbers of person adding there they be so we don't know the numbers no. So here the args and quarks will help us to do that. And anytime you see a creative function biana you name the number of arguments I be here no, we can use the args and then the quarks. But first of all, me take the args no and some quarks and so first let me create a function that will add numbers. So I'll say add or add numbers. Okay, now in the previous video and I say in the previous lesson no, the arguments no about this parenthesis no, but here let me leave it and I'll say return none. Okay, none. Okay, so this is just by the way. So here we don't know the number of arguments be here. So first of all, we'll be treating args here. Until you use args no. Okay. Until you name the number of numbers if you say add. So we will be using args. So the args no, you better type a multiplication sign or symbol no. Then you type args. So here, me return I make us say sum args. Okay. Now the args no args no I accept men kind of say arguments, the unlimited arguments but say or accept arguments na men kind of say or accept arguments new year or store arguments in a form of tuple. But just all person say tuple as in my previous video no, and I say me will video on tuple on this channel will be to me share, and I say I may target that video no in the description no, into me the link in the better description or no boss will be me understand the tuple. So in a short term I may explain it tuple and show tuple adibia a store values and then values no a store you can't make changes to that values and then it doesn't follow any order. That is tuples for you. Okay, so here let's say we want to add numbers but we don't know the number of items if I say add numbers now. So here yambra, so I'll say print add numbers. Okay, so now we don't know the number of numbers if I say add, and I say you fancy user but say the number of numbers if I say add. Okay, so here I want to add let's say 7 numbers, so I'll say comma 6 8 10 8 6. So how many numbers we have so far? There was 6 numbers, and then the last one I'll say 5. Okay, so now I will treat these numbers now as tuples. Inti whenever I call this add numbers no, I will return it tuples. Inti let me add it here. Okay, so it has so let me run it here for us to see. Now we have 50. So if you have a calculator, I'll be to me add all these numbers together. Then you get to know say amount of 50. So actually that is the args argument for us. So with the args arguments, you know, it helps us to let's say use multiple arguments. Simply be name the number of arguments you use. And then let's move on to the keyword arguments. So the keyword arguments and also a collecting named argument and then store them as a dictionary. So when we talk about named dictionary as okay, in the previous tutorials now, so we follow in Kwargs, we had a function like this. Let's see person. Okay. and then the person, I'll say name is equal to Emmanuel. Okay. Now if I return name, whenever I return this, or whenever I call this function, it will return Emmanuel. Okay. Okay, so let me clear this. Okay. So for now, let me comment this out, and then let me call this function the person function. Whenever I want to print the person function, I do not need to bring any argument, because already it has an argument over there. That is the argument name. We can say a named argument. Okay, that is a keyword, a specific keyword. Into me run it this it should print Emmanuel. Okay, now I can change it and say name is equal to, let's say, Samuel. Okay, so if I run this, it should come as what? Samuel. Can you see it here? Let me clear it and run it again. Now you can see Samuel here. So that is that. So let's use this example to explain the keyword argument. So let's maintain this function person. So here we will clear this. Let me clear this. Okay, and then I will say Kwargs, the Kwargs argument. So I'll be returning the Kwargs. Okay, so whenever I print person, let's say person, and then I'll bring all the named keyword arguments over there. That's the named argument. So I'll say name is equal to Emmanuel. Now I'll bring comma. Now maybe another one, so about, let's say phone. I'll say 0245. Okay, so, and another one should be, let's say age. I'll say 20. Okay, now here, these arguments here will be treated as a dictionary. And if I chose own dictionary as here, I have a video and also my tag in the description. Okay, so this argument that have been brought here, okay, will be treated as a dictionary. So when we print this, it will be printed as a dictionary. So let's run this. Okay, so what's the error here? It says name. Okay, Kwargs. Okay, so we forgot to bring one. So you are supposed to have two multiplication signs for the Kwargs. Okay, so that is some of the mistakes I and a bit more. I will say we need 2, and then the Args now getting 1. So here they are supposed to be 2. Okay, so let's run it. Okay, so now you've seen that name is Emmanuel, phone number is 0245. Okay, and then the age is also 20. So here these keywords near the buyer, and I said these keyword arguments near the buyer has been treated, and I said they have been treated as a dictionary. So if I want to print only name, I can say let's say pair, and I'll say person. Now let me print this. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me undo and then do this rather. I don't want to waste time typing all this again, so I'll say pair. I'll clear this. Okay. So now if I want to get the name of the person, I can say per. So let me say print per. Okay, and then I'll say name, but it should be put into double quotation or single quotation marks. So let me use single quotation marks. So I'll say name. Into my print here only Emmanuel because it will be treated as a dictionary. So once say only Emmanuel number. Let me clear and run it again for us to see well. See, I'll say Emmanuel pe and Abba. Sounds number, let's say be a phone a shower. Sorry. The phone a shower. Phone number no so aba. Tell us the phone no and so a share phone number no so aba. Okay, so that is how you use the arguments and then the keyword arguments. That is, if you don't know the number of arguments that you're supposed to use in a function, you can use the arguments and keywords arguments. Please don't forget to follow me or subscribe to this channel and share for others to also learn.